Our faith tested, tried, divine intervention, witnessed and verified, and the royal succession. Through each capitulation low, benefits we see, the promises will flow, the promises of deity. When you chase your dreams, your imagination.
Michael Othello once asked me about my nation and faith. He did not believe that any nation's character could be as beautiful as Estolia. To explain, I chose to share an analogy. Michael employed only the very best, from his chef to his chauffeur, to executives who ran his companies. When his chef brought us delightful fruit tarts, I watched him dig into the dessert with great gusto and asked him, "Does your chef ever let you down?" He laughed at the notion, and when I asked why, he said, "She would never purchase or use ingredients that were not the very best possible product." To his mind, that answered my question. I then pointed out to him that the way Estolia has triumphed over the negative flaws of spite, jealousy, envy, covetousness, and other base human motivations was the same as his chef's method of preparing superb desserts, by only allowing the best ingredients into the dessert in the first place. Not everyone who is born in Estolia remains there. There are those who find the lifestyle and limitations uncomfortable. They leave and strengthen Estolia through their absence. Conversation with Michael Othello and Ezekiel Zakarian.
Wraith watched as a half-dozen heavy-bodied birds flew overhead. The other women stopped talking. Even if they continued, she would not have been able to hear them.
Willow Walu, Willow Walu.
The birds were loud. Luckily, they did not take long to pass overhead. While they were interrupting the conversation, Wraith reflected on the previous 2 weeks. During that time, she and Gregorio had done very little of the job they were there to do. Sebastian and Melanie, Gregorio's uncle and aunt, were the masterminds behind the anti-Estolian program. For the last 30 years they had been selectively breeding the horses to strengthen the gene that caused a horse to bond with only one person. Sebastian was 60, and Melanie a decade or so younger. As vigorous as they were, Wraith was not sure why Gregorio was recalled. The only work Wraith and Gregorio did was review the 5, 10, and 30-year plans that Melanie and Sebastian had outlined, with breed refinements they would focus on over the next 20 or more years. Other than that, they spent most of their time visiting with family members and friends of Gregorio.
It is a time of great ambiguity.
Gregorio explained to her one evening.
With the family focused on my cousin's injury, I believe they do not wish to have me devote myself wholeheartedly to the stable, in case I need to take his place. As it is, we will only work in an advisory capacity until Zeke's situation is resolved. That could take a full year.
She had wanted to ask further questions, but the brooding expression on Gregorio's face kept her silent. Something had been bothering him since they first arrived in Estolia, but she did not know what it was. She and the other women were sitting in one of the sunlight terrace courtyards on an upper level of the palace. From that vantage point they could see over the back of Mount Zacharias, down to the Zakarian Plateau and the extensive royal stables.
The willowall is our national bird,
Georgiana said.
They flourished on all of the Balearic Islands, and in southern Italy, Sicily, and Corsica, where they were called the Wallard Swan. But they're fearless, and something like the dodo, they were easy prey when non-native species decimated them. Now they are only in Estolia, and the surrounding smaller islands like Corlia and Pequeño.
The sweet bird song of some of the smaller birds of Estolia was like a musical chorus in the background. It was strange to think she had been in Estolia only 2 weeks.
Estolia is a paradise.
Wraith said.
I don't think I would have believed anyone if they described it to me.
She smiled at the three women with whom she was having tea. Georgiana, Melanie, and the former queen, Jackie.
I don't think I'll ever want to leave.
Did you know that all three of us came here temporarily?
Melanie asked.
I came here with my best friend Bethany, so she and I could write a book about Estolia. Jackie came here because her father asked Theo's father to take care of her after his death. And Bethany saved Georgiana's life and asked if she could come here to recuperate.
Where is Bethany now? Did she leave Estolia?
All three women looked somber.
No.
Jackie said.
She and her husband died shortly after they married.
She glanced at Georgiana and opened her mouth, as if to add something, but then closed it after the two women seemed to share a silent thought. Georgiana added.
We don't often speak about it.
Her voice was muted. She said.
It was a sorrowful time here in Estolia to lose so fine a family.
The women were silent for several minutes. At last, Jackie broke the silence.
I heard you and Gregorio rode up to the top of Mount Estoliana to watch the sunrise over Mount Zacharias.
Wraith smiled.
It was more beautiful than I could have imagined. I can see why it's a favorite thing to do. Gregorio said it's typical to celebrate on the day before rather than the birthday itself by riding up to see the dawn.
We celebrate the end of a year of life rather than the beginning of the next year,
Jackie said. She turned towards Georgiana and added.
I received word that Zeke will be released from the hospital wing today. Tonight's celebration will have two purposes, for Gregorio's birthday and for Zeke's healing. He will be able to join us briefly prior to dinner, though it will be some time before he is able to sit through a meal with us.
Wraith liked the way she was included in conversations, how she was treated like family rather than as Gregorio's assistant. They were almost finished with their tea when Cassie and Lillian joined them. Both were bubbling over. They were always bubbling over with good humor. Cassie could speak endlessly on dozens of topics without seeming to breathe. Wraith enjoyed listening to her transparent happiness overflowing.
Isaiah tells me that Zeke will be out of the hospital wing today.
Lillian said, her voice rich and happy.
I am so glad.
Jackie's voice was dry when she said, looking at Wraith.
We will finally be able to introduce Wraith to Zeke. You will like him.
When you chase your dreams, your imagination streams, and your heart is pure, and you're absolutely sure your dreams will in turn, with your resolve so firm, embrace all of you, your soul through and through.